Welcome, and thank you for being with me today. I am really excited to have with me today Traci Webb. Some of you know her who have watched the videos with her and probably are going to be really happy to have this one too. And for those of you who don't know her, Traci is somebody that I have known for a long time, somebody that I respect. She is an authority as far as I'm concerned, because of her experience, because of her healing ways in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is one of the oldest sciences, and its roots are in India, but it's coming to the West, and it's coming to the West in a big way, thanks to people like Traci. And I think it's lovely that it's spreading because it's such a valuable and such an essential piece of knowledge that can't be lost. And so we are so fortunate to have Traci at the Ayurvedic Living School in California, forging ahead and bringing that knowledge to us. So let me bring her with me before. No need to listen to me speak anymore. Let's bring Traci. Let me get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. And this is Traci. Traci, you're going to have to, there we go. Welcome, Traci.
Hi, Margie. Thank you so much. I'm so happy and honored to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy that you're here. I think Ayurveda is one of the most important sciences and aspects in life. I know in my journey, Ayurveda was essential to bring me back to health and back to my balance, right? Because once we have that balance, we have health, right? So, and Traci, I can't even talk enough about you because I love you so much. And I love you for many things, but I love you because you are spreading this knowledge of Ayurveda through your school. So today we were going to talk about something, and I'll let you talk about it and I'll ask the questions that maybe I think people have. But talk to us. We were going to talk about EMFs, right? And what is an EMF? What does an EMF do? How, what, why, where, and what do we do about it? And it's all yours.
Right. Thank you, Margie. And the feelings are mutual as always. My love and adoration for you all these years and our connection. So I'm just thrilled to be here and to have this conversation. It's a really important conversation. So EMF and EMR, these are essentially from the Vedic world. We have this idea that, first of all, EMF, EMR, electromagnetic field or force, and R, the R, EMR, radiation. So EMR is actually something natural that we get from the sun. However, EMF it also is something natural that's on the planet, like the planet itself has its own field and force. However, man-made electric devices emit this as well, and to varying degrees. And so, and the science aspect of that is not my specialty, my forte. My specialty is like, how do we actually shield ourselves and actually on a daily basis do an EMF detox for ourselves? So in Ayurveda, just like as a brief overview, we have what are called the 4 toxins, that the 4 toxins essentially with the 3 doshas in combination are what makes up disease in Ayurveda. It's like the things that cause us problems is the doshas, as well as these toxins. So these 4 toxins, you might have heard of ama, which is, it's like a crude, partially processed food that sits in the system and blocks the physical channels and causes a backup and diseases of all kinds. And so that's the kind of the common toxin that people know about when they learn about Ayurveda. And that happens in the physiological, the physical body system. We also have Amavisha, which is that same toxin when it's left in the system and it begins to putrefy and become more acidic toxins. And so that's the second level of toxicity. So that all originates essentially from partially digested food, or faulty digestive capacities combined with faulty food for that person, or the kind of going against the eating protocols of Ayurveda that can cause that. Then we have these other two toxins, and these are, in our day and age, are some of the most virulent toxins. So one of them is what we call Garvisha, which is chemical toxins. So it's like considered xenobiotics or exogenous, like it's created outside of your body, these chemicals, but then when we find them in your body where they shouldn't be, things like pesticides or hairspray or makeup and all of the many chemicals that we put on in our body, even laundry detergent sitting against your skin all day, from the air pollution, the water pollution, etc. All of these chemicals that we take in, that's another level of toxicity that our body struggles with. That's a lot linked with things like cancer, etc. So we have the chemical toxins, what we call Garvisha. It comes from the word gar, meaning slow, and visha, meaning poison. So it's like a slow poison. It's not usually over, like in one night that you have a problem from it, although you could, but it's usually like a slow problem that happens over time, that it's the buildup of these things or sitting in your system for a long time. Like, I don't want to go there, but vaccinations, for example, or
pesticides.
Exactly. Pesticides, even asbestos, something like that, which is a naturally occurring element, but when it occurs in your body where it shouldn't be, left unchecked over years, it can cause cancer and things like that. So then the fourth one that we're here to talk about today is the Indra Vajra of Ajanyavisha. It's a very long name. You don't need to know how to pronounce it to help yourself to remove it from your system. But it's named after Indra, Lord Indra, Indra's Vajra, Indra Vajra. He had a thunderbolt. That was his weapon. So Indra is one of the Vedic gods. And he had a weapon that he used, which is his lightning bolt. And so that's his Vajra. So it's Indra's Vajra of Ajanyavisha. So it's basically this poison, which is coming from the sky, quote unquote. But because traditionally, how did Ayurveda discover that this was an issue? From when they would have the monsoon season and there would be a lot of lightning storms. And so what they discovered, for example, like my teacher Vajra in his small village in India, he had helped his father with about 6 of these. It was around 6 or 7 of these cases over the time he was learning from his father after he graduated Ayurveda school. And essentially the same issues that they would see in the villages in India, where they would have these issues where people would actually be near where the lightning had struck, or maybe themselves had been struck by lightning. There's actually a gentleman in America who's been struck 7 times by lightning. He was a ranger, a forest ranger over in Virginia. I think it was Shenandoah National Park, something like this. But he had been struck evidently 7 times. So these people, so in other words, like once you've kind of, you don't, he's not the only person. You will often see where somebody might be struck by lightning and it can happen again, and it can happen again. And they get these spots on them. I think they're called lichen, something like that. It looks basically like the veins of a leaf. It's really like the nervous system and the electricity lighting up the nerves and frying it. And it's like a pattern of like a fern or a leaf on their skin. You can see it. You can look that up if you're listening later. But essentially, these people all over the planet, there are people who get electrocuted by lightning. And so, and it's really interesting when you look at these people, for example, a lot of times they'll have a burn hole in the sole of their foot, what in TCM calls kidney 1, which is like this grounding point. What Ayurveda would say is like kind of the lowest part of our earth energy, is we're connecting with the earth. They'll get like a burn spot there. But it's interesting, our body is electric, right? So, and especially our nervous system is electric. And so these people, when they have when they're in an electrical storm, even sometimes they're not even struck by lightning, but they might be in that storm and they feel their hair standing on edge. And usually that's like an impending doom sign of like, you're going to get electrocuted, right, if that's happening, and they want you to crouch down and connect your heels and it's a whole thing that you can do to protect yourself. But basically, that's usually not what we're seeing in our offices, but I'm bringing that up because traditionally that's how they came to know that these symptoms mean that you have electrical poisoning.
Okay. Okay.
right? Like they would
Confirmation. Okay. Yeah.
exactly. And so there's a whole string of symptoms, and I thought I could even like pull some of them up here. I have presented like long workshops on this in the past over several days. So I'm just going to pull up some of these symptoms, for example, of types of things you might see. But I'm just saying what we see as Ayurvedic practitioners in our clinical practice is you'll see these same symptoms, although they've not been electrocuted by a thunderstorm, right? Like they haven't been electrocuted by a lightning bolt. They have continuous, and really that's what it is. It's another insidious, slow toxin, and it's the most prevalent one, right? Like you eat food and you get like a little tiny little dot of ama that you might create from unprocessed food, right? Or of Amavisha, and of even of the chemical toxins. But with this toxin, with the EMF toxin, right, Margie, it's like it's everywhere. Science supports it's everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. You can't escape it.
Exactly. That's the best way to actually say it. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's what my teacher Ajanyavisha would say is you can't escape this. Like, please, in other words, please don't go into fear, he would say,
Right.
but let's get educated. And then what he ended up doing was creating a bunch of products to support us. So, and many of them are free and they're in your own home and in your backyard, etc. So we can go over those today. And I think that's the most important piece. But I want to give you some of these symptoms. So, for example, you may be feeling your a lot of these symptoms more with your nervous system. So it'll start to do, and what's happening, like just as a quick intro, from an Ayurvedic lens. So we talked about the crude ama and the Amavisha and even the Garvisha, how they pollute your physiological body and the physical channels. What we call the Shrotamsi, those are called the bodily systems and channels in Ayurveda. So this toxin is unique in that its direct form of entry and pollution actually happens in the vibrational body, what we call our light body, our subtle body.
Subtle body, yeah.
Yes, our subtle body. So our subtle body has all of, just like you have your vascular system or your nervous system, it's really the nervous system would be a good equivalent to use. We're said to have 72,000 nadis, which are basically the vibrational electric highways of your subtle body system, whereby the prana flows. So when we have, as we do on our planet, and again, you can be in the North Pole, you can be in the South Pole, you can be everywhere in between, you can be on the isolated mountaintop, and still you're going to be affected by this type of pollution in this day and age, with all of the relay of information from outer space to Earth and everywhere in between, and all of the electrical devices that we all have in our homes. So it's really not, my teacher taught us you can't run from it, but how can we manage it? And what is it doing? So what it's doing is it's basically filling the channels where the true prana, so true prana is the healing vibration of the universe that has these three myriad expressions known as Soma, Agni, Marut. And I know we did a separate video on that, so I just encourage those to check that one out.
Please do. Both, yeah. Oh my gosh, yes, fascinating information. So valuable.
Yeah, I think that was in our Abhyanga conversation, if I'm remembering correctly. So we have these aspects of prana which bring nourishment and transformation and intelligence to our system. But what happens is they naturally, prana naturally flows through our vibrational highway known as these nadis. And it also, the kind of, you could say the gates of entry are called the marmani, the marma points of the body. So they're on the surface of the body. They're what in TCM, they're similar to what in TCM they would call the acupuncture or acupressure points. So we have those very similar in Ayurveda, and they're points of entry where the prana enters the system and then it flows through the vibrational highway, the nadis. So what happens is the EMF comes in and it pollutes the marmani. And think of it as like getting jumbled information, unintelligent information running through the most intelligent aspect of our system, which is these nadis, these vibrational. Think of your subtle body as the blueprint for your physical body. So when it's flowing and the prana is freely flowing and it's receiving the nourishment and information and intelligence that it should, then the physiological body results in health, and our psychological and emotional bodies and mental body result in health and balance and peace. So when there's a disruption to the vibrational body, what can happen is both physiological disease as well as emotional, mental, psychological dis-ease. Mm-hmm. And so and the way to think of it is basically electricity as we see it in the EMF in our home and all of the smart devices, etc., is unintelligent prana. It's a type of prana which is man-made more. It's not the healing life force of the universe, which prana itself is. So in our subtle body is meant to be flowing true prana, the healing energy of life itself. But what's happening in the modern era, what you're seeing, and you're seeing this with younger and younger children, and especially we're seeing them with neurological diseases, even in their 20s, things that used to be for the elderly, things like dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, etc. And a lot of this, in my humble opinion, can be linked to this EMF toxicity, as well as the autoimmune. And so it's synthetic, impure energy that's in excess with nowhere to go, that is lacking intelligence and nurturance. And versus what should be flowing through that system is a nurturing vibration that is highly intelligent and knows where to go and what to do and what to remove and what to bring in, etc., at every part of our body.
So it's like a disconnect and confusion in the body then.
Exactly. A disconnect and confusion and an overwhelm within that system. And even left unchecked, it can cause like an outflow from that, an outflow within the bodily channels, such as the nervous system and things like this, where you start to have the symptoms of things like MS, multiple sclerosis, symptoms of things like B12 deficiency, magnesium deficiency. It mimics a lot of these neurological issues, which are linked to these nutrients such as B12 and magnesium deficiency.
What are those symptoms, Traci? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, so exactly. And so this is things like feeling of tingling sensations, and especially in the extremities. Exactly.
Okay.
And it can be pain. It can be really intense migrating pain, unexplicable pain, feeling like an ant is crawling on your skin or a feather is brushing on you somewhere, where you feel it's basically where the neurological system is being disrupted and the intelligence that's meant to be flowing through there and through our immune system is being affected. And another way that it shows up, so it comes in and it pollutes the marmani and gets trapped there. And again, those are areas where prana is meant to enter, but it can't fully enter. It's lacking the ability to properly enter. So we feel exhausted upon rising first thing in the morning. We might be depressed and feel no connection to life itself, because again, the prana is not flowing as it should. And then not only does it disrupt the prana, so we're kind of, we either can get really depressed or it starts to affect the endocrine system and we don't sleep and produce proper melatonin to have deep sleep and restorative sleep. So now we wake up more tired due to that, as well as the pranic deficiency. And over a long term with that sleep deficiency and what it's doing to the subtle body within the nadis, we end up with soma deficiency and ojas deficiency. So this vibration of, think of it as fluids within the body, become more deficient. We get more dehydrated. The luster of the skin goes away. We don't have the brightness and luster to the skin. We look more prematurely aged, because it is literally, scientifically has been proven, EMF has been proven to cause disruption and complete severing of the DNA strands. So we end up with cancers and brain tumors and breast cancers and testicular cancers, depending on where we're keeping our phones and things like that.
Right.
So it's causing a lot of issues with the intelligence at the level of the genetics as well, and the DNA, as well as our immune system, because the ojas gets depleted. So now we end up with a lot of the symptoms of autoimmune.
Yeah, confused, right? because
thoroughly confused.
yeah, yeah,
And it's worse for babies, just, for so many reasons, because they have a lot more soma in their brain and in their system. And also because the skull of their brain is like whatever it is, a half millimeter thick versus the adults, which is many times that. So, and the adult brain doesn't have as much soma, much hydration like the child. So especially for children with phones and things. And we could talk briefly about that, but where do you find it in your home? You're going to find it anywhere you have any major appliances, like your dishwasher, your vacuum, and the worst is your, like we don't even have it in our home. We haven't had it in our home for decades, my husband and I, but your microwave oven, even when it's not on, it's got like a 40-foot parameter that a radius that is just keep the kids away and unplug that if you're going to own it. They EMF people that are really hardcore say put it in your garage and unplug it when you're not using it.
yeah.
It's that dangerous. But but the microwave oven, but any major appliance, and it even can be things like in your home if you have a dimmer switch. Dimmer switches are kind of really dirty. They've got a big parameter or radius around them that you want to stay away from. But any kind of fluorescent lights. And the big thing, and the thing I don't want to do is freak people out of the thing that the most important place for us, because we're spending a third of our life there, is our bed. Mm-hmm. So like just doing a bedroom check, we just encourage you to get everything out of the bedroom, right? Like even as a yogi or yogini, we definitely want to try to reduce having TVs in the room. And by the way, flat screens have less of this issue. So that's a good thing to know.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. But so just do a bedroom check, keep everything out of the bedroom, even the walls around the bedroom. Like if your bed is against a wall where there's a smart meter on the other side, or your router is on the other side or something like that. But definitely it's good to keep no lights plugged in around your bed. You can do some kind of a little battery operated, I have across from our bed, like on the other side of the room, it's got a little battery operated remote thing. So that actually, you could do something like that, or have a light on a timer or something that's plugged in over there. But just try to keep any plugs away from your bed, and also your clock. Get a little battery clock, battery operated, because that's not the battery operated toothbrush cleaner, like your toothbrush battery, or one that is like rechargeable. That's much better than one that's plugged into the wall while you have it in your mouth.
Yeah.
Same thing with like razors or blow dryers. Like think of all that EMF right in your mouth and in your face and on your head, right? So that is the first suggestion, is like, so those are some of the symptoms. Yes.
We asked about phones, iPads, where those are included, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, the cell phones, and you can go on to, I'm trying to think, maybe I can email you later the link to put to this video, the website where they can look at the cell phones that have the least, I'm forgetting the name of the governing body that checks those and gives them a rating, but we can remember to do that, that they can look for the ones that are the least.
I'll put it on underneath in the information.
Yeah. And then cell phones, there are cases that people have put out now that will protect you against like your iPad, your phone. But just remember that when you use it, if it's pushing, like if it's behind the phone, then if you're having the phone face you this way, you're actually getting it pushed towards you. It's kind of like in a car, what they found with like cell phones is when you have it in a car and it's encased with all of this metal, it's like, that's like one of the worst reading areas for EMF is in a car with your cell phone, unless you have an external antenna.
So is that when you're talking or all the time?
As long as it's off, and even in airplane mode, you'll want to check your phone. But when we've checked, like my husband and I, we have a friend here, we call her the Emf Detective. She used to teach with me here in NorCal. So she has a lot of these different readers, and we would check them. If you're on, and check your individual phone, but with our phones, if we're on airplane mode, it's fine. Okay. But if it's on and not in airplane mode, that's when you're in trouble. And then again, if you get a case thinking you're protecting yourself, you might be exacerbating it if you're facing the phone towards you. You want to face the protector towards you because it's pushing it away from you.
Got it. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes. Thank you.
Did you want to share about your Tulsi? Because that seems like a good opening.
Yeah. Well, sure. If you look at my phone, for those of you who know, holy basil, Tulsi. Well, Tulsi is supposed to absorb EMF.
Yeah.
If you have a Tulsi plant, you don't normally have a Tulsi plant in your house, but if you have a Tulsi plant, that Tulsi plant will absorb the EMF that's around, right? So if you put it in your phone, there's a video that I guess I could post later that shows how it actually works. So I have a Tulsi plant, and I decided, well, okay, I'm going to take a leaf and put it on my phone, and everybody in my family has a leaf on their phone. So my phone has a case right now. So between the case and my phone is this leaf.
I love that. I love that, Margie.
Tulsi, well, it's holy basil, right? And the properties of Tulsi are amazing. And apparently this is one of them.
Yes. And it's such a great, that's a great segue to the plants. And I also just wanted to chime in on the laptops and things. So if you have a laptop, know that a couple of things, like try to have your laptop battery fully charged and then unplug it from the wall, because it's really the cord from the wall to you and then your laptop on your lap or something that basically is like putting all that electricity into your lap.
Wow. See, I would have thought it was the other way around.
Right?
That's interesting. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I know. And some laptops, like evidently the laptops that I've bought recently, they're really good. So like they're very low. And you may be surprised if you ever wanted to pick up a reader or a meter, like to detect, EMF in your home. Our friend, that the EMF detective woman, she recommends like testing the different rooms in your home. She fully she was having symptoms of Parkinson's premature, very young. And then she ended up building an entire home, the EMF protected home. And then the next time I saw her, all her soma was back. Her ojas was back, her luster was back, all of her tremors and stuff was gone.
Wow.
She was rejuvenated. So it was really amazing. So the laptops, don't put them on your lap. Try to keep them 1.5 feet away from you. Ergonomically good, because we're yogis, obviously, and yoginis. We want to have good posture, but at the same time, try to plug them in overnight to recharge them, and then unplug them in the day. It should take you maybe to lunch, then plug it again during lunch, and then when you come back from lunch, unplug it. So you can actually kind of be EMF free from the wall that way.
Yeah.
And if you have somewhere in your house where you have a lot of cords coming from lamps and just different devices, see if you can turn that off at night so that you plug it into one plug that has like an on-off button. Turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, strip. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's really good advice. Because I think I'm looking at, I have a strip with 6 things plugged in right now. And I was under the impression that as long as it was plugged in, it wasn't emitting anything, that it was only when it was unplugged that it was emitting.
Exactly. So,
yeah. That was my mistake. That's interesting. Thank you. I had no idea.
Yeah, there's so much information out there. And I know I'm thinking, the bedroom, I remember a story when we were learning about this from my teacher, Ajanyavisha, a story of one of the practitioners, a fellow colleague who had a young child who had seizures and had something major electric, I forget what it was, in her room. I think it was her television that she had on by the head of her bed, and they took the television out, and that first night she stopped having her seizures.
Wow.
And this is an important one to me because I think in one of our last conversations, I told you my nervous system has been notoriously my weak link in my system of all my systems. And when I was a young girl, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. I had just one grand mal seizure that they knew of, but they diagnosed me that way back then for whatever reason, which technically you need to have more than just one. But I learned early on where we moved, we had just within 6 months of moving to a home who in the backyard of our home, wasn't the backyard, but the green belt behind our home, there was a high power line right there. It was in 6 months of moving there that I had my seizure. And I also think we had a television, I think it was a little pink television in my room as a child. So something like this, but I definitely remember we had that tower line within 6 months of moving there. I had my seizure. So I'm really a big proponent of this, and because the effects are really far reaching, for the benefits of not only our sleep and our happiness factor, but also our physiological health, and then prevention of all of the things like cancer and autoimmune and all the neurological issues that can happen as a result. So if you're open to it, probably is a good segue, the Tulsi plant, to just talk about some of the therapies specifically on how do we
Please.
work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we have a problem. So what do we do about it? I love that you have solutions to this, which is why we're doing this in the first place. And I think no, really, because it's important, right? And Traci, you are such a wealth of information that, no, it's true. So you always give us, there's a problem, but here's the solution. and this is how we make things better. And so, yeah. Let's do this.
All right, let's do it. Yeah. So if you feel like you're having any of these symptoms, like we talked about, kind of lacking luster for life, waking up with anxiety, there's also the insomnia, disturbed sleep. I love this other, a couple of other simple things: dizziness, confusion, disorientation. Like you can't think straight, kind of brain fog. You might get dizzy and have to feel like you're going to fall over or something, and kind of disrupt coordination between your brain and your body. Like you're not aware of the nervous system's, what it's telling you. Like you don't feel pressure or pain or urge to defecate or urinate or something. Like, again, these are some of the neurological symptoms that people can see. Memory lapses. You were just somewhere and you don't know where you were, but you came back and you're like, where was I? I don't even know where my mind just was. Or if you just feel like you're falling asleep all the time, you're having emotional challenges or panic attacks, anxiety, these kinds of things. The other thing we notice in Ayurveda is you might have a pulse that feels stronger on one side versus the other, or an irregular heartbeat. We call it the laya. There's an irregularity to the pulse where it's jumping around a bit. It can be very physiological, like literally an irregular heartbeat, or it might be more vibrational as a pulse taker, as an Ayurvedic person, or even TCM or Tibetan medicine. When you're feeling the pulse and you feel like a lot of energetic and vibrational irregularities, what we call laya, the regularity is missing and it's not on the proper beat, then that can be EMF. And you can actually start to feel that in your own pulse. Is one of the easiest ways to start to learn pulse, is to feel your own pulse, and you'll get to know, oh, my EMF is so high, I need to detox extra tonight. I think that's one of the great gifts of pulse, is for your own self-healing. The other thing I was going to say that I really find interesting is, aside from seizures and the crawling on the skin and tingling and feather sensations and numbness or inability to feel the pain, the heat, the sensation, the shaking and tremors, but also just muscle cramps, muscle stiffness, muscle weakness, shooting pains, muscle pain, like having a lot of irregular pain in your body. Kind of sometimes it can come out of nowhere. That also can be a sign. That's also where I said it could be linked with magnesium. So you may consider that as well. In the West, they link that more with potassium, kind of more naturopathic. They link that more with magnesium, and I definitely do as well. Especially during COVID, our stress levels are high and our cortisol. I just learned this recently from Dr. Teitelbaum, that our cortisol makes us urinate all magnesium out of us. So cortisol, one of these stress hormones that forces all the magnesium out, and magnesium is really important for our system.
So most of us are low in magnesium anyway.
We really are. And then we get COVID and we're just even more under stress. So absolutely. And so other symptoms can be, for those that are on computers more, or the smart devices, burning red face, dry burning red eyes. The skin starts to lack a glow on the face, and the just kind of brightness of the face starts to disappear. The other thing, digestive issues, nausea, vomiting, changes in bowel movements, lots of belching and gas with no known physical issues. So it's like, again, the lack of intelligence of the body and how it should be functioning is missing. So, of course, brain
regulation, right? It's almost like the body's become incoherent.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And again, anywhere that the body is full of soma, like the breasts, like the brain and the nervous system, it tends to have an affinity for that. So again, the EMF is genotoxic, so it's causing that double-stranded DNA breaks. So the last symptom I thought was really interesting too is this idea that you kind of have a lingering feeling that you need to be doing something, but you don't know what it is, like this kind of insatiable, I must do something. And you can't really be, you're not okay. You just don't feel quite right within your own skin. You just have to do something.
Like a restlessness?
A restlessness, and even like, it's restlessness. It's restlessness, and there's nothing that you can pinpoint that to. It's just this unknown sense of needing to do something without knowing what that something is. So that was really interesting. So, okay, so that's all the doom and gloom. And are we ready for the solutions?
Yes, yay.
So the cool thing is, as yoginis and yogis out there, the yogins of the world, you're already doing a lot of what Ayurveda would recommend, which is daily sadhana. Mm-hmm. So daily sadhana will help to keep the true prana flowing and the true soma flowing through the system. So it will allow, it's almost like if you had an empty highway, I'm thinking like an underground, the subway, and there was no subway cars there, then anything could take residence there, right? Mm-hmm. And so the opposite's true. If you have the subway cars in there, there's much less room for anything that's not meant to be there to be there. So when we keep true prana and true soma flowing through our system through the yoga practices like asana and very gentle pranayama, even the sound therapy, or if you do like pujas and things like that, or mudras, anything like that is really going to be supportive to keep the true prana flowing through your system. Mm-hmm. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think there's certain mudras that kind of channel that through us that can really help with that. Yeah.
Absolutely, Margie.
That would be a really valuable tool.
Absolutely. And we'll refer them back to you for that, because I know you have such vast knowledge of all things yoga, including mudra.
Just a little bit. Nice for great, Tracy.
And also regularly drinking your fluids, like keeping the soma up, keeping your system hydrated. Like I heard yesterday for the first time that because it was Beltane yesterday, evidently one of the traditional practices is to bring lilacs into your home. It just so happened that my husband yesterday of all days picked off a little branch of the lilac flowers from our backyard and handed them to me as a flower, you know. I said, did you know today's Beltane? And evidently that's traditional. So I did what was recommended of us. I took the lilac flowers and put them in my water. So then they carry my water. Water again carries the vibration of whatever you imprint it with. So we imprinted it with this beautiful soma flowers, the lilac. So now I have a little extra EMF protection coursing through me when I drink the fluid. But there is a kind of a common tea that Vaidya Mishra would recommend. And he's actually got different ones that you can look at on his website. But one in particular, it has like a 1/4 teaspoon each of coriander and rose petals. And then 2 pinches of bacopa or gotu kola, what we call brahmi, or a combination, 1 pinch of each, bacopa, moniera, and gotu kola. And so that is going to be like giving us soma to our nervous system all throughout the day. You can just put that in a quart of water and be sipping it all day. So that'll keep our soma really rich and blissful in our nervous system. The other big thing for the yogis is obviously meditation, for the very same reasons we just talked about. All of the sadhana, it really serves to keep the nadis open and flowing with the proper prana. So part of the problem with the nadis is when they get the false prana, the EMF and EMR coursing through them, they will begin to dry out and heat up, which will then exacerbate pitta and vata. And then that starts to dry out the soma even more and the ojas even more. So you kind of get in this downward spiral. So keeping through your yogic practices every day, you're basically keeping the false prana out so that it doesn't have a chance to dry out the system and develop these symptoms. It was like the ancient technique that we can be using today to serve us and protect us as natural EMF protection, actually, is daily sadhana.
Regulating. We keep the system regulated, right? Coherent and
yes,
flowing, more than keep that stagnation out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and keeping the channels open, and the way I describe to clients or students, how do you know when your channels are open? It's how you feel after you've done an amazing yoga practice or meditation or pranayama practice, or after you've received an amazing massage or taken a nice warm bath or had a good workout, something like that, where your whole system is open and free. No worries, the bliss molecules are flowing. That's the soma. And so those are soma molecules. So when you have that experience of feeling really good, when you're feeling really good, then you know you're on the right track. The other thing traditionally, and they did this not only in India, but I've seen this in South America, where there was a young man who had been struck by lightning, and the whole village knew from the ancient shamans down there and practitioners, healers, that you bury this person. You actually bury them in the earth. So they took this man, they dug this big hole, and he went into the earth, and they had his head sticking out. Of course, you have to be careful that you don't like impact the breathing. They knew what they were doing. But this is like the modern technique of what they call earthing, or grounding your body, connecting your feet to the earth. So that's a simple thing we can all do every day, most of the year. And the time of the year when it's too cold to go out and do that, just get some mud that you can buy online. One of my favorites is Oromir. I love Oromir's mud from India. And it's kind of smells and looks like dark chocolate. You kind of want to eat it, but don't, because I've tasted it and you don't want to eat it. Just out of curiosity. It's got herbs in there for the skin and things, but it literally smells and looks like chocolate. And so, but you can mix that with some hot water or oil in the winter and apply that just to the soles of your feet while you're in your bathtub. Or you can actually massage it into your whole body and kind of let it dry as best you can. And once it's dry, if you mix it with water, it'll dry. And when it's dry, you kind of have all the EMF has been sucked out. Because earth element is astringent and it pulls EMF out of you, but it's also got that electromagnetic, it's got the force that we need that's healing. It's like, even after somebody does something like an MRI, part of the natural healing world, we say, go take a mud bath or go, get into the mud in some way. Even if you're at the beach, just pile up the sand all around you in the summer.
That was going to be my question. Yeah, sand at the beach. Okay. I heard Sadhguru yesterday or day before did a short segment, and he talked about burying your feet to your ankles in dirt or in sand to bring the body to balance and get rid of allergies and things like that, and bring that. So that makes sense, right? If in this case, in what we're talking about, now it's making more sense to me, his suggestion. Interesting.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes. So burying the feet in that way, coating them with the mud while you're in the bathtub, or burying your whole body if you can. If you can do that once a week, that will be amazing for your nervous system. It's going to pull all of that out of you. The other thing you can do is, if you're on the computer, a couple of things is screen yourself. I wore this shawl today. You can screen yourself with a silk shawl, or like if you're one of the, I'm trying to think of anthroposophy, the folks, I can't think of the Waldorf people, they do peat moss. They've discovered that peat grew in the peat bogs, like over in the Celtic regions. They have all these peat bogs where these bodies have been preserved for thousands of years, kind of like the mummies of Egypt. And part of what they discovered had to do with the peat that was protective. And so that whole philosophy of Rudolf Steiner, they're really big into wearing peat. They wear peat hats. One of my husband's old roommates was really big into it. So he'd run around with his peat hat, and he had a little peat vest. Whenever he was in front of the computer, he would be wearing his peat vest. But in Ayurveda, you could have, we could wear a silk shawl, or you could do the peat one you can buy. And you also want to keep plants in your environment, because they also bring soma and help with the negative effects of the EMF, especially Tulsi. And there is a spray from Chandika. We can put the link maybe. It's Vayu Shuddhi is one of them. It's one of my favorite sprays there, because it's got the Tulsi, it's got sage, a sandalwood, these beautiful divine bliss molecules that also protect. They basically do a lot of energy cleansing of the subtle body and keep the channels open and the marmani clean, like the circuits clean. But they also, true prana can come in, but they also help with bringing soma into the environment, because it's, again, soma, the essence of water in the atmosphere, that really protects us as well from the EMF. So it kind of links onto them. Same with the plants. One of Vajra's favorite things he would have us do would be to walk in the moonlight, walk in the moonlight, which is very soma rich, or hug a tree or sit under with your back against the tree, a green tree, or be by a body of water, because the water itself, just like earth and water have not only the soma, the earth and water soma, but they're giving to you, but they're also cleansing, and especially water is deeply sattvic. So
I teach yoga on the beach, and you feel it. There's no way of not feeling it.
Oh,
yeah.
Next time I come down, I got to do that with you all. You've got all the elements present there. Exactly. Your students are so blessed to not only have you and the amazing yoga you share, but all those elements. You feel them every week.
Yeah, no, the elements really make a difference. There's, of course, anywhere you are that you're practicing is good. But when you have that water, the ocean and all that comes with that, right? That prana, that energy, and that flooding of it's very cleansing.
Very cleansing. The elements are very cleansing.
All of them coming together to help you and support you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Really...
And then the obvious, like bringing things from nature in your house, not just the plants, but flowers. And then they're emitting these beneficial molecules, bliss molecules of soma into the atmosphere. Vajra taught us with aromatherapy, like it's considered so blissful that you can't have just one smell. So when you have flowers that you're really drawn to, bring them into your home, and that's going to enhance the soma.
And cut flowers is okay?
Cut flowers, yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually even ideal. Some of the flowers that are high in indols, like jasmine, for example, or gardenia, they don't really give off their scent until they have died more.
Right.
It's really when they start to die away that they finally release the last of that life force. And you get those really blissful molecules coming. So, and the last thing I was going to say, so we could put a link to Chandika where you can get these different products, but one of them is a clay that you can buy. It's the skin clay. You can take just a little tiny pinch, like a quarter teaspoon of that or less, mix it with a little cool water, and at the end of the day, dip cotton balls in there and cover your closed eyes and lay down. That will suck the EMF out of your eyes, because a lot of EMF goes into our hands and into our face, chest, and head and eyes. And that's why we're getting the red face and the dry eyes and all of that, and the pain in the hands and all of the carpal tunnel. So if you can, throughout the day, go into the bathroom and flush your eyes with some cool water, not cold, that'll block the channels, but cool water. You also can, they'll have on this website some rose drops that you can do.
I have those. Amazing. Amazing, because I do have red eyes from the computer. Yeah. So yes, yeah.
So can do that a few times a day, and every hour take a vacation from the computer, flush your face and eyes with the cool water. They also have face creams that you can get that have clay in them. You can use that at night to draw the EMF out, and then follow that with one of their wonderful Lalita age-defying facial creams with like rose or jasmine in there, and some essential oils. That'll be really somogenic for you. So
Traci,
that's
if we could get the names of all those, and I could put them here for people to know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then the last piece is just eating more somogenic foods to keep your system with lots of soma. Like these are things that are dairy based, because dairy is it's high in soma. So milk and yogurt and paneer and things like this, ghee. Also summer squashes and coconut, okra, sweet juicy fruits, and just more fluids in general. Those are great foods that anybody can use. And I'm trying to think if there's one more. There's a couple little products we can mention. One is specific. It's called Mahama Oil, which you use on the crown of your head, on your Adipati Marma. That is actually the portal where the prana flows into the system. So when you keep that, basically dirty electricity, think of it as it pollutes and dirties up that our marmas in general. And since that's the one where the most gets brought in, we're bringing in a lot of EMF right in through the crown of our head, into our nervous system, and all down our spine, through the nerves, into all the nerves in the body, tissues and organs and systems. So keeping that purified so it's not polluted with EMF is really important. That will allow true prana to flow better and be received. It's called Mahama Oil. And you can put a drop or two in your palm and then dip your ring finger in and apply it. The way you find that marma is you just put the root of your heel at the bridge of your nose and then relax your middle finger, and it falls into a little valley there. And that little valley, you feel like just a little dip. And that's the area, just very gently, and 7 clockwise circles, or as many times as you like, just so that you feel grounding. If you have a mantra, you can chant it while you do that. That's vibrational medicine that'll help cleanse the nadis as well.
That's very good also for Parkinson's or any type of neurological brain, MS.
Oh, it's incredible.
So good for
incredible.
them.
And it smells so good. And the herbs and the essential oils are just like so perfectly formulated there. The other thing with the face, if you get the red face, you can do the rose hydrosol. It's like the rose water. You can spray that on your face throughout the day. Is nice. Or even dilute it with some more water if it's too strong for you. And you can once a week do a little eye ghee bath, where you take an eye cup and you put liquid ghee, warm ghee in there, and put it on your eye and then lay back for a few minutes, do a little eye yoga, and then drain it out and get fresh one, do the other side. That'll keep the eyes with more soma. You can do that for about 5 minutes each eye once a week.
So for me, I don't know if it's the way my face is structured, but I can't bring the cups because everything just runs out. Okay. So I fill them so that I put my eyes down into a very, very full cup. Seems to be okay that way. Is that okay to do it that way?
You can whatever you need to do to work. You might even just fill a dropper with warm ghee and put it into your eye once a week, and just kind of let it drain out. We've used goggles for that. There's the traditional way is the dough dam, like we use chickpea flour and do that. But there are different shaped eye cups. So you might just have the wonky. There's one that's thicker and wonkier than the others. It might be that you just have one of those. So
I just need to experiment with them.
I would encourage you to experiment. Yeah.
Okay. Because I've had ghee in my eyes, and it's amazing. What happens through that for your eyes is pretty amazing.
Amazing. And it's so deeply healing for your emotions and for your nervous system, the eye bath as well. The eyes is like the part of your central nervous system that's exposed to the outer world. It's really unique that way. It's like your eyes are connected to your central nervous system. So we actually read your nervous system through your eyes, and we can treat your nervous system through your eyes according to Ayurveda, which the nerves get blocked up a lot by emotions. Like what blocks up the nerves vibrationally is your emotions. So when you do that ghee bath every week, you're crying out. It's like a forced hearing of all of these emotions that have been trapped there, which are a lot at the root of a lot of the psychological and neurological challenges that we struggle with. There is one last thing I wanted to share with your community. If you're open, it's just, I'll give the name, but they'll have to learn how to do it there through the when you buy the product, it'll teach you how to do it. It's called the Samadhi Set. So Samadhi Set are these beautiful little roll-ons they come in a little kit. And it's basically these little medicines. There's, I think, 4 or 5 of them that basically have a little bit of different vibrational effect. But they're essentially, the role of them is to cleanse the marmani, to cleanse a self-marma massage that you can do every day before bed. So we're saying, how do you treat yourself? You try to reduce and prevent. So the first thing is like prevent everything from coming in. But second is remove what comes in on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. It's really the buildup that has a problem. And that's even scientifically proven. Like, I think it's 33 hours on the average cell phone is, according to some science, some studies out there, is enough to produce a glioma, a brain tumor, and some. So like, yeah, it's ridiculously crazy, like a minimal amount when I did the math, 33 hours. Oh my gosh. So when you're doing these practices, I encourage you to do them before bed, because then you're going to have a whole 8 hours with you're like pulling everything out from that day. And you can do that again and again. And if you're doing it day to day, then you'll be able to get to the residual from days and weeks prior. You'll be able to get to the root more. The Samadhi Set is really perfect because it gives you a whole, not only is it self-marma massage every day to rebalance your marma and prana, but it also is helping with the EMF pollution of the day by opening up cleansing the marmani of the pollution from the EMF, and also opening up the flow of prana through the system while you sleep. And it was our teacher, Vajra, he called it Samadhi Set in part because you can do it in preparation for meditation so that when you sit, samadhi happens, like you're already in bliss, right?
Oh, lovely. Oh, lovely.
So for meditators, you will love this. Like, I know if you're not doing that, Margie, it's going to probably take your meditation to another level. So
yeah, no, and now we talk about true restoration, right?
absolutely, yes, absolutely.
I'm so glad we did this.
Me too.
Oh, Traci, thank you.
You're so welcome. My pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations with you. To be able to share this with your community, it's so important to get it out there. So thank you for spreading the light and sharing the knowledge of Ayurveda and yoga, as you always do.
Oh my gosh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am more than
Thank
grateful. I
you.
can't even begin to tell you. So valuable. And we'll put the information below. But thank you. Thank you for joining us, Traci. Thank you for being with me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you next time.
Yeah, there will be a next time. Don't you worry. Bye.